This video will help you get started as you build out your type project or type portrait for Project One. So I went ahead and did a Google search and found the famous person that I'm going to be working with. I'm going to be working with Charlie Chaplin. And I went ahead and just saved him to my project folder. It doesn't matter, you kind of want something that is relatively high resolution, but the resolution of Charlie Chaplin doesn't matter as much, or your famous person. You're just really going to be using it as a template. So I'm an illustrator. I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to make it print. I'm going to do letter size. If your portrait tends to be a little bit more portrait, you can totally change the orientation to portrait if you'd like, by clicking that button. Then I'm going to change this to inches because it's always a good practice to change to inches, and the rest of the settings should be just fine. And I'm going to hit create. So this is my artboard, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my image of Charlie Chaplin, and that should be in my project folder. So here he is. You could do it as a template. I'm just going to do it as a link. I'm going to hit place and then place him on my file, and you can see how, this is a relatively good size. And I'm just going to make it fill the page because remember, you really just want the head. You can have, some neck area, but I really am just kind of focusing in on the neck up. So I'm going to move him down a little bit, just kind of get it placed where you want to get it placed. And then that I'm going to actually rename my template layer. And then I'm going to make a new layer, and this is going to be my working layer. So that's going to be the layer that you put your typography on. So with my template layer, it's, there's a lot of contrast here. It's very, the blacks are very black. And so what I want to do is I want to knock down the opacity a little bit of this so that it's just kind of in the background so I can see it, but that it doesn't distract me with the type that I'm placing on top of that. So I'm going to go to my effects, my transparency panel, and I'm just going to knock that opacity down. Probably like, it's up to you, 50%, 60%, whatever you feel like is going to be the best to, create your work. And then I'm going to lock that template layer. And you want to make sure that template layer is in the background. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm always on my working layer. And I'm just going to look at my portrait and just think about what characters of type are going to work the best for the different areas of his face. So I'm just going to kind of focus on particular areas. In this case, the eye, the nose, the ear. And when I look around here, I see a lot of O's. I see some commas, some maybe curly brackets. I see a question mark right here. So you're not gonna be, I want you guys to step away from thinking that you need to draw with a type. This week you're gonna also have a read through an article. A designer actually created a type portrait, and he kind of goes through step by step, and you'll take a quiz on his process, and his process starts a little bit differently. If you want to you can kind of do some aspects of his process if you wanted to for your type portrait, but I think the most successful type portraits are ones in which you're really thinking about the characters and matching it to a facial feature. So I don't want you to think of it as drawing with type, more as bringing the image to life with type. So we have his ear. Let's do a question mark. So I have a question mark, and you can use any typefaces that you want. I want you to try not to squish or skew, squish or stretch your type. I want you to try to keep, make sure you hold shift when you resize and keep the typography true to itself. But you have all of these different typefaces at your disposal. You can download more. So I'm looking at his ear here and I'm thinking about the type. And I actually like, oops, I'm not going to stretch. I actually like this, potentially this typeface. Let's see if we can find something else. And you can kind of go through, and I'm not going to take too much time doing this, but, obviously, let's look here. Maybe this, yeah, something like this. And this, not great, but I'm at least just getting letter forms in their place. And then I'm going to go ahead and type a comma. So I really think his nostril kind of looks comma-ish. You can flop if you want to. So I don't, if you wanted to kind of reverse this comma, I think that would be okay. So if I go to Object, Transform, I can reflect this, hit OK, and then I can do this. And then what you want to do, excuse me, once you find the type that you feel like fits that area, and I don't think this is the one. So let's see, let's play with some more and see if we can find some that look a little bit better, a little bit, oh, that one is interesting. Oh, that one's interesting too. And you kind of want to make sure that they still look like, you want people to be able to recognize, oh, that's a comma. And then I'm going to drag this over, and I'm actually going to reflect it again. So I'm going to Object, Transform, Reflect. So I'm going to reflect that back. And then I'm going to kind of put this over here. And this one is a little bit smaller, so let's Shift, scale that a little bit differently. I might want to rotate it a little bit more. And then once you find, okay, I like these, I think these are going to work, I'm going to select both of those and I'm going to outline them. And the reason we're going to outline them is because you probably are going to be using a ton of different typefaces that I might not have, or that your classmates not have, to be able to like give you reviews and be able to comment and talk about them. So once you get your typefaces in place where this is the one, this is going to stay, then you can outline them, and then you don't have to worry about having any font discrepancies. So let's look at his mouth now. And I know that there's, these things called curly brackets. So this would be a curly bracket. And I'm going to bring this out. I'm going to rotate it. And I don't think this is the one per se. And I also think his mouth, I guess that kind of like we could reflect that or rotate that, but I don't think the typeface is the one that I want to use. So I'm just going to kind of, flow through my different typefaces, whoops, and see if we can find something that's a little closer to what, oh, that one's kind of cool, a little bit weird. A little closer to what his actual, it's so funny, like that one looks like a mustache. Let's do this. That's a script, so that's probably not going to work. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time doing this. Here's one. I don't know why that is pink. Myriad Pro. Let's do Myriad Pro. So we have Myriad Pro, but I'm probably going to reflect this because I feel like, and I'm going to do this horizontally instead and hit OK, rotate it back down this way, make it a little bit longer. In some cases, especially with the like punctuation and different things that maybe aren't letter forms, you might be able to take some liberties and kind of modifying them a little bit. But, I might use this for his mouth, and this might not be the answer, and I'm just showing this as a demo, but this is kind of the idea. With your eyebrows, you might want to use smaller shapes. With some of them, you want to have contrast, you want to have different sizes, think about that kind of thing. But I see, in his eyes, I see not curly brackets, I see parentheses. So let's get rid of this. So I have a parentheses, and I can make this bigger by holding Shift. I can rotate it, stuff like this. And you could, potentially find one that's bigger or longer. You could duplicate, you could have smaller things. So if you go back and look at the project statement, you can kind of see how other people treated that stuff. But what's nice about this is once you start building, you can turn off your template and kind of start seeing how it grows and evolves. And the hair, you might do, some texture with some repeating shapes. Obviously, this is a big black area, but you could fill it in with a bunch of different multiple type face styles and shapes just to kind of get that fill in there. But I think hopefully this helps you get an idea of how to get started. Watch that article that I posted about how that designer kind of handles his type portraits. But I think, everybody's is going to be a little bit different. If you use a poet or a singer or songwriter, you could always use lyrics, or there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do this and treat this. So hopefully this helps you get started. um, One of the things that I, want to make sure is that you follow directions, that it looks like the famous person in the end when you take that template off. And then before you turn this in, what you'll do is you'll remove your template file, save a PDF, but then you'll still make sure when you turn this in that you'll include the original reference photo as well as your portrait. But I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with this project. Hopefully, this introduction kind of helped you get your file set up, and I look forward to seeing your work on this.